Hi, Mark from Sharkbait here again. In 2011, at the ICAST show in July, Okuma had a wonderful show. They had had some great success with the Makaira series of reels before. They further reinforced that with some of their new introductions. They have always been a strong producer of fishing rods, owning their own factory. And a large factory, very capable of producing rods efficiently with some good quality. Primarily, these in the past had been in the freshwater side of things. They'd made a few forays into the saltwater rods with nothing that was too fantastic. This time out, just like with the Makaira series of reels, they listened, they learned, they studied, and they came up with some really exceptional rods. It takes a lot for us to be impressed with an offshore produced rod. We are big believers in Seeker and CalStar, and we'll do some videos in that respect, in upcoming weeks. But this was one occasion where we were more than impressed with what these folks came up with. The pricing is square, and the quality quite good. I mentioned they listened. They listened well. They studied. They looked at what CalStar was doing. I think that was number one on their sites. And they also paid attention to the Australian market and studied what was popular in that fishing haven. I think even Ian Miller over there would be impressed with what Okuma did with respect to the IGFA trolling rods, complete with leather handles and the use of ALPS guides. The Okuma rods throughout utilize ALPS componentry. All of the guides are set up to handle spectra very, very well. And they're made even on the trolling rods to have good clearance for running knots through those guides without having them bunch up. Good actions, good rods in a broad range from IGFA on down to 12, 15 pound sticks. And there are some poppin rods too for use with spinners. Those are, I think, 3 rods in that series, and they're all 2-piece. All the other rods are 1-piece designs, blank through the handle, with the exception of the IGFA detachable butt rods. In the case of the IGFAs, those would be using unibutts or curved unibutt sections, again, primarily designed for the troll. We'll look at the stand-up rods this time out. Within the Okuma line, there are 3 spinning rods for bait casting and jigging, and then you've got several conventional rods. Most of these are made to handle realistically line tests of 50 pound and down, and then they get into their Poppin Series, which are made to handle rods that are much, line tests that are much higher. All of the rods incorporate some similar features. All the ones that utilize a casting guide would use a ALPS guide. This is a spinning rod. I'll try and get this to focus in a little bit on the guide, and you can see the insert material made to handle spectra lines and do so favorably. They're all double reinforced, triple wrapped, really nicely made rods, super light. They're all a carbon fiber rod material. All of the handles, with the exception of those that are in the IGFA class using the leather handles, all of them make use of X-Wrap material, which is long-lasting, has good for a sure grip even with slimy, wet, bait-encrusted hands. And all of them have some beautiful work done. We'll see if I can focus in a little bit and zoom on in on this. Let's see here. Hopefully that'll zoom in. It's not an easy one to get this. This is some nice abalone work, and they're using this on every rod within the series. And you'll see that on the rod itself, and then also on those rods that utilize a reel seat. And this is a nice ALPS aluminum reel seat. There's also that intricate work underneath the seat. Beautiful pieces. I mean, absolutely beautiful pieces. Excuse me. The other thing that's kind of unique is this butt section, and it's gimbaled. It's also, I'm not going to say soft, but it's a rubber gimbal. So you've got the advantage of a gimbal where that pays off, and also this isn't going to be uncomfortable if it comes up against your midsection in the midst of a fight of a fish and you don't have a belt on. But if you do have a belt, great. You've got a gimbal on every rod that they produce. The Poppin series of rods are all spinners, all made for dealing with, spectra, typically, at least as a backing. And they're all two-piece designs. Again, like the other rods in the Makaira series, they have the intricate abalone, distinctive and beautiful work. And on the popping rods, they again will use the same ALPS reel seat. It's a double lockdown again, which is a nice thing, securing your reel in there even if you're not using a clamp. Always recommended to use a clamp, but on the case of a spinner you're not. And with these reel seats, once it's in the reel, it's really not going anywhere because it's locked down at two different ferruled pieces here. Again, all made from machined aluminum, all with the X-wrap. The first guide is reverse facing for less wind knots in terms of, when you're casting spectra, that can be an issue. Beautiful blanks, superior design, very light in the hands. And again, as I mentioned on the popping rods, they're a two-piece design and they separate at the handle section and then attach. And that sticks in there probably about 4 inches and it's not going anywhere. It's a secure design. And that's kind of the popular convention on the popping rods. Not really what we're used to here on the West Coast that way. We tend to go more for a straight one-piece design. And they produce rods for that application too. They have some wonderful jig sticks, and I'm sure they learned from CalStar in this respect. All the jig sticks are deckhand style, meaning there is no reel seat. You're going to use the rod clamp and attach that. Typically in a 4 arms distance between the butt where your hand would ride, that's where most guys will go ahead and attach the reel at this point. That deckhand style is real popular. It allows you to put the reel seat where it's best as far as your own particular build. Great casting pieces. These rods are typically 8 feet in length, although there are some that are 9 feet. The 9-footers really are best for a store pickup because to ship a 9-foot rod is prohibitively expensive for you. We do include shipping on all the Makaira series rods. They're priced right from about $149 on up to about $600. But the value that's present in these rods is pretty exceptional. Let me pull out one of the trolling rods here if I can find, oh, here we go. This is one of their more typical trolling rods, and you can see here we're making use of ALPS rollers again. That is a lot of clearance, really an awful lot of clearance. No issue with spectra going through this, through these guides. Wonderful guides, kind of distinctive in the gunmetal. That first guide you can see your line's going to go under, over, and it's going to really, again, not have an issue in terms of clearance spacing for use with spectra knots. You don't have to worry and go to a wind unless you want to. And if you're simply tying on a 30 to 40 turn Bimini and a 30 to 40 wind Albright, more power to you. Again, utilizing the distinctive abalone work near the foregrip, metal again on the trim piece, X-wrap, and wonderful ALPS guide. Now, on the trollers, they don't use that inlay underneath. It's still a double lockdown, as you can see on the guides. Great reel seats and exceptional rods, typically a little shorter in the butt section on these guys, and a more standard metal gimbal and gimbal cap on the trolling rods. These are a stand-up style troller. Actions are exceptional. They're nice in the tip and plenty of power. This is a series of rods that Okuma has produced in the Makaira line. They did not depreciate their investment in the Makaira name one bit. These rods are every bit as nice as one would hope. Far nicer than we would have expected for an offshore produced rod. You can tell the guys are listening, and they listened well to the West Coast. Rod builders, they listened to and learned from companies like CalStar and Seeker, and they took into account some of the best that's coming out of the Australian market. The fellows don't have any major objection to spending some serious money on a quality fishing rod, and they have some beautiful pieces that are produced in that country. And the Okuma IGFA rods and the stand-up trolling rods absolutely stack up well in comparison to any rods that are now on the market. Good values, good quality products, and distinctive looking. So good stuff. Check them out.